welcome back to My Kitchen, My Rules. This is a really short tip video for you, all you cooks in the house that want to be baking during the holidays and such. You're probably going to run into a recipe at some point that calls for cake flour. Now, many houses don't have cake flour. You're lucky to have all-purpose and self-rising. And so we're going to make a quick substitute for cake flour that's just as good as the regular. Now, you need your white lily flour because you know I don't use anything else. And so the recipe that I'm fixing to make here, which y'all will probably tune back in for because it's, you know, my birthday cake, get yourself a nice level cup of flour. Now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to level it off. You could use a knife to do this, but get it nice and level so you have an actual cup. And by the way, you know, this kind of holder, this is a dry measure. That one with the little handle, that's a wet measure, and that's two different amounts, just for the record. Now we're going to remove 2 tablespoons of flour. Of course, I'm doing this over my pot because, you know, I don't really want a giant mess in the kitchen, but of course I'm fixing to have one anyway. So there go 2 tablespoons of my 1 cup of flour. So go ahead and dump that in your pan here. And we're going to replace that with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now I'm using Rumford cornstarch because it says non-GMO in giant font, which totally makes it more true. And where was Rumford from? I think I looked this up one time. They are from Terre Haute, Indiana. So right from the middle. All right, so 1 and 2. A little bit stuck in the bottom, so let's fix that. Remember, baking is science, and so I can't be guesstimating like I do on everything else. Now, to really get your cake flour correct, and this is the difference between a halfway cake. I was about to say something else, but I restrained because I know some of y'all got kids that watch this program with you. Look at me restraining. I'm so proud. So you need to have a sifter. So my sifter belonged to my grandmother, and y'all know that I was able to get her cast iron pan when she passed. I also got her sifter. So Ann and Janet, don't be mad. So here's what I'm going to do. And I needed a different bowl for this because I'm supposed to have 2 bowls to do this. All right, so sifting just puts a lot of air into your flour, which is the difference between a clunky cake and a super duper light cake. And you don't have to be perfect about it, but there it goes back in there. Now you can feel like your ma on Little House on the Prairie. And we'll just sit here doing this. Now I guess you can buy a sifter nowadays, but you can probably find one at an estate sale. And then you're gonna notice down in your sifter, you'll have some little chunks of flour. This is why we're sifting, so we don't have little chunks in our cake, because this is gonna make it so different. And now let me show y'all what a good cake flour looks like. That also mixes it in. You're gonna see that it's super light, super airy, and it's gonna make the best cake ever. So that's your substitute for cake flour. Tune back in and you'll see exactly what I'm making in my kitchen. Hey friends, Leigh Brown here, and welcome back to My Kitchen, My Rules, where I am setting my oven to 350 degrees because we're fixing to make a cake. Now, what cake are we making? Well, this is my birthday week. My birthday is November 22nd, which if you're wondering why that date is familiar, that was the day on which John F. Kennedy was assassinated back in 1963, and I was not responsible. I don't really know how many shooters were on the knoll, but I wasn't one of them. But anyway, the cake I'm going to make for my birthday, because I have to make my own cake. I know, right? Sad horns and little violins. It's because I get red velvet cake for my birthday. Now, it's red velvet because that's what my mama always made. She was not much of a cook, but she could make a red velvet cake. And frankly, I think it's like a requirement of Southern people that we know how to make one. And you can always ask one of my oldest friends, Heather Robinson Weir, about this, because Heather ate red velvet cake with me for a lot of years. And then Carrie Van Pelt Paxton got to ride the school bus home with me because she lived on the other side of the county. And she got to help me make the red velvet cake because Carrie also knows a secret that my mama could make one, but I wound up making my own cake a lot of years, I'm just saying. But all the other friends who came to my sleepovers and birthday parties ate this cake with me, so I'm gonna make it with y'all. So here's how we're gonna make a red velvet cake. First of all, you know you got to have us one of your ingredients, your Dixie Crystal sugar. They love the way I show you all their stuff in my videos, and I know they're proud. So the first thing we need is some shortening. Now, I didn't say it was healthy, okay? So just get over that. It's still better than store-bought. So we're going to use butter flavor Crisco because I like butter. You know, it's my birthday, so I'm going to have extra butter. And I like the Crisco brand. I imagine you could probably buy other brands, but I mean, what's the point, frankly? It's kind of like you don't buy other sugar, you don't buy other flour than White Lily. You got to have standards, people. All right, so I need a 1/2 cup of shortening. which is about half of these bars. I do like these bars that they make. It's easier to measure it out than it is in the little canister. And then while I'm getting the creamer going here, we're gonna cream our shortening and sugar first. I have already gotten my pan prepped, and so I'm going to use my good bundt pan because I couldn't find the tube pan I wanted. Frankly, my cupboards are kind of a wreck. It's one of my old Pampered Chef things. You can see it's been loved a lot, but it's already been run over with the Crisco and flour, so it's ready to roll. If you don't know how to flour a pan, or frankly you don't know why, go back in my archives and look at the videos, and I explained it one time. And now we need 1.5 cups of Dixie Crystals. So let's get our canister here, because y'all know how to show you the bag. I don't keep it in the bag. That would be foolish, because that's like inviting ants to come to a buffet at your house. All right, so we need 1.5 cups of sugar. Let me stop talking while I measure here, because I have been known to make that mistake before. And you know, I don't measure cooking entrees, but we measure when we're baking, because you know, science. All right, so we're gonna cream the shortening and the sugar. Don't forget to lock your mixer down when you cut it on. And you're basically just wanting your shortening and your sugar to break up a little bit and mix up till it's kind of got a pebbly looking kind of a texture to it. It won't be super wet or goopy or any of that. And I don't really know how to describe it to y'all because I don't have the words. Let me get my camera and I'll just pull it over here and show you what it's supposed to look like. You see here, it's kind of pebbly looking, and you see how it could go back together. That's what you want it to look like. I don't know the technical term. All right, so now we put the camera back down, and we're gonna add in 2 eggs, and I've got the Publix eggs today. And what I was wondering is my mama brought me some eggs that she got from her chiropractor, Dr. Ted, because I'm still waiting on Daddy and Timmy to get busy building a chicken coop in my backyard. But all the eggs from Dr. Ted are different sizes, and I just wonder how that works with how did the pioneers and people like my grandmother, they didn't have all these store-bought eggs, y'all. They had, you know, real farm eggs, and they're all different sizes. You know, do you ever think about these things? Is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Okay, let's put that on low speed and mix that for about a minute. So let me look at my watch here. While that's going on, we are going to get our food coloring ready, because this is red velvet cake. Now, I will tell you, if you've got somebody on the spectrum in your house, or you've got some kind of issues, you probably don't want to make this, because there's a lot of research about the red dye number 40 and how sketchy it is. But we don't have anybody like that in our house. I'm just saying, I love y'all, and there's some weird things out there, but for my purposes, I love red dye number 40. We need 2 tablespoons of cocoa. I'm using Hershey's. I've had some Ghirardelli one time, but I used it up. We need 2 tablespoons of pure cocoa. And make sure you use it unsweetened, y'all, because your math will be off, because the sugar takes up space in the container, you know. All right, that's just about right. And then we need 4 tablespoons of red food coloring. So this is why I'm telling y'all, if somebody in your house is on the spectrum, this is a lot of red dye number 40. And it impacts behaviors, and I really don't understand it, but I'm sure that one of y'all in the, oh crap, that just went all over the kitchen. Hey Steve, run over here with the rag real fast, because red dye food coloring will be a staining agent forever. And that little container just went wild when I squoze it. Looks like blood on my countertop. Although, you know, I was thinking about that. Y'all know the movie Psycho with Janet Leigh in it. I always wondered how they got that blood in that shower scene. Did y'all know they used Hershey syrup for that? It wasn't actually blood. All right, so there's 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna let Steve lean in here and clean up the countertop before we stain it. And by the way, this is one reason your realtors will tell you to get quartz instead of granite, because look at there, this stuff is wild. Quartz is non-porous and it's easier to get it cleaned up. But it's kind of like when you spill things on anything. Do it fast, do it fast. All right, so I got 2 tablespoons. And here comes number 3. See, get the edge there, we'll spot on the edge. And thank you very much. And I got some of my KitchenAid mixer here too. It's like blood all over the countertop. I mean, y'all would think that this was a Halloween cake, but it's not. It's birthday, and now I'm wondering why I have to have bloody red things for my birthday, but you know it's all right. And there goes the end of my red food color. And so I reckon we're just gonna say that's as close to 4 tablespoons as we're going to get today. All right. And that's just going to have to do. So let's get a little fork or a spoon, and we'll mix this up. Oh yeah, we're going to have to wipe this again. I might have to pause the show here so we can clean up the bloody red mess of the food dye. And I don't know why it goes in the chocolate. There's some reason for it. And again, you know, we don't have to know all the details, but we've got red food coloring and cocoa. I'm going to mix that in. And after we get that stirred up, we are going to put in 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, which is important because we're about to add baking soda. And then we're going to have a good chemical reaction. So let's get 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And mix that into our cocoa and red food coloring and Shazam. There we go. Just mix that on in. And then we're going to add this. Thank you. Get some more blood off the countertop. This is going to be something we're going to have to put some elbow grease into, I believe. Thank you so much for the wild plastic containers. Okay, so there we go. And looks like we probably put this in some ice cream. Wouldn't that be good? Make some of that chocolate cherry. Yes, Lord, yes. Okay, so that's all mixed in. And you see it no longer looks like cocoa. It just looks like chocolate cherries, frankly. I must be looking for some chocolate covered cherries. That is one of my favorite Christmas treats. All right, so now we're gonna put that back on the low speed. We're gonna put this in to our mixture here and watch it change colors. All right. Okay, now we're going to take a break while I work on my countertops for a second. I'm going to pretend I have a commercial sponsor, which actually Dixie Crystals is my sponsor, but I showed you their ad already, so this is not for them. This is for me. I'll be right back. Okay, so full disclosure, at the commercial break, I did clean up a little bit because y'all know I don't like a messy kitchen. And so I did clean up, so don't judge me harshly, but laugh if you must. Okay, so right now we've gotten our food coloring and cocoa mixture added to our shortening and sugar, and we've got to put our rest of our wet ingredients together here. And so that's what this bowl is for. We need some buttermilk. See, so healthy, right? This is like the healthiest cake ever because I'm sure buttermilk's got something helpful about it. But let me shake it up because it settles a little bit sometimes. I kind of always have buttermilk in the house in case we need to make a pot pie or some chicken and dumplings, but for today we need 1 cup of it for a cake. So 1 cup of buttermilk. Then we're going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. Make sure all that gets out of there because buttermilk's got a nice little texture to it. And the vanilla, we're just going to put in about a teaspoon, which would be about all I had left in that bottle or plus some. We're going to recycle that. And then we need a teaspoon of baking soda. What did I do with my baking soda? So you need baking soda, vanilla, and then we're also going to put in a teaspoon of the other magical ingredient, which is vinegar. So y'all are thinking, Leigh, what in the name of Sand Hill is going on here? I know, right? It works. Okay, just trust me on this. What brand do we have today? So I can tell them. We got the Heinz brand because apparently that's what I had around the house. I buy vinegar in a giant jug because it's also what I use for cleaning everything, because vinegar is the best cleaning agent ever, and then you really don't have to buy all those store-bought cleaners, y'all. You need to use vinegar. And I do keep some essential oil around the house. I keep the lemon so that I can make my cleaning stuff smell good. It smells better than just regular old vinegar. So where did my spoon go? Look, I'm kind of a wreck today, but you know what? That's all right. This is my birthday cake. I can go at my own pace. That kind of looks like barbecue sauce when you mix it all in, but that's all right. It doesn't taste like it. So see, there's what we have. The speckles are because I use the good vanilla, like with the vanilla beans in it. And so if you're using vanilla that doesn't have speckles, you should be suspicious. Okay, now we are going to, here's your cocoa. We're going to turn the mixer back on. You put a little bit in there, not all of it, okay? A dollop of your wet liquids. Okay, now after that mixes in, we're gonna put in a little bit of cake flour. We have 2.5 cups of cake flour. If you don't know about cake flour or how to make it, if you don't have any at the house, I made a video, y'all. I showed you how to fix it. So this is my homemade cake flour is white lily, all-purpose, and then the Rumford cornstarch. So let that mix in, and then we're going to put in a little more of the liquid. If y'all didn't know, this is definitely one of the secrets to a good cake, is you alternate your wet and dry ingredients. Just kind of let it go until they're all in there. Put in a little bit more dry. It'll get clumpy. And of course I sifted, so I have the best cake flour possible. A little bit more of the wet. Oh, this is so pretty. I can't wait to show y'all what it looks like. But I really can't move my mixer right now because it's, oh, I dropped a little bit of flour. Let me rescue that real quick because it's on my clean countertop. I know it's extra clean now because I cleaned up all that red food coloring up off of it. And that way we'll just not waste that. There we go. All right. Last little bit of dry. And y'all, I like to finish on wet ingredients just so I can get the dry mixed in as good as possible. Last little bit of wet. All right, and then while she mixes, let me get a spatula so I can scrape the last little bit down off of the walls. Ah, it's so pretty. All right, let's cut that off for a minute and open her up. And then we're gonna scrape down the side so you don't wind up with any uncolored segments of cake. And make sure all of the flour got mixed into the colored mixture. Now y'all can see it. Look how beautiful that is. It really is the loveliest color scheme ever. All right, mix that in, and let's just give it another little go around here. All right, see, that's it, okay? Now, the amount of cake this is, you could do 2 layers or 3 if you like thin layers. That's if you're a big frosting person. We're not big frosting people over here. Sometimes I'll just put a little bit of powdered sugar on the top. But y'all might want to know how I make the frosting for it. Oh, I missed a little bit on the top of the paddle. Don't forget that part. I see I had a little bit of sneaky flour up there and a little bit of the cocoa and coloring mix. Mix that down in there one more again. Scrape off my spatula and let her go one more time. But anyway, as I was saying, you could do a couple of layers if you prefer more, and I'm going to do that one bundt cake or tube cake or bigger cake pan, whatever it is that you use in your house. And that's it, friends. I'm going to put it in the cake pan. I unlocked my KitchenAid here. I always like to let it drain down for just a second. Now, I will tell you, in our house, people like to have a turn licking the beaters and licking the paddle and basically licking everything with cake mix on it. But with this one, just make sure they do it over your sink because you've already seen how quickly you have to move if the red dye gets anywhere because this stuff is wild. But isn't that beautiful? I mean, look, see? Oh, it's so red and perfect. All right, my tongue's fixing to be red like I'm eating candy or something. And I spilled a little bit of, I made a giant mess today. Well, that's what cleaning supplies are for. I got my vinegar, frankly. Y'all see how I'm fixing to clean it. All right, so when we put this in the oven, we're at 350 degrees in that oven. I like to use the paddle, by the way, to scrape off the excess and make sure we're getting as much cake batter as possible into the cake. If you're doing layers, they'll cook for probably 20, 25 minutes, or whenever your toothpick comes out clean. And if you're doing the big cake, again, everything depends on the, that's good. It's my birthday, I can do what I want. But now my hands are gonna be stained. Anyway, you're gonna cook that big one for 45 to 60 minutes. I recommend if you've never made this before, you start with 45 minutes and then start testing it every little bit till your toothpick comes out clean or your knife comes out clean or whatever it is that you use to test your baked goods. I use toothpicks because they're small and I'm not doing too much environmental damage, I don't reckon. I don't know, I don't really care. So anyway, we're gonna cook it. You'll see it on the other end. And then here shortly, I'll show y'all how to make the frosting too. Tune back in just a second. Okay, so it's time to make the frosting for our cake. Now, rules of thumb on frosting, your cake better be all the way cooled off and so better had your frosting because otherwise it'll melt and become just a raging mess and make pools around on the bottom of your cake plate. Nobody wants that. So we're gonna start off with a cup of milk And remember, I was telling y'all before, you got dry measures and wet measures. This is a wet measure, these little measuring container cups. And it's something to do with physics and chemistry. So anyway, get yourself a cup of milk, put it in a small saucepan on the stove. And then we need 5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So we're gonna get our white lily flour here and get 5 tablespoons of flour. Now, if you're wondering what kind of milk I use the milk that's in my refrigerator, which is the 1%, but you can use whatever you want. I would imagine the real chefs use whole milk because of its values in viscosity. I don't know. Anyway, the fat value I'm sure has something to do with it, but I like the flavor of 1%. So there's our 5 tablespoons in our cup of milk. Let me get a spoon to stir it. And then what we're gonna do is cook until it is thickened. I know y'all love it when I talk to you off screen. So we're gonna cook this, stir it, basically just stand here and visit with it, you know, hang out, have small talk to it about its family and the weather and what book it's reading, you know, small talk, not politics. We don't talk politics with flour and milk because that would be very boring. And we're gonna get all the little lumps out, just sit here and attack the lumps. If you've had kind of a rough day, this can be very soothing to sit here and attack the lumps. And once you get it thickened and smoothed out, you're then going to cut the heat off. I'm on a medium heat, and you're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it cool all the way down, and that's going to be step 1 of making your frosting for your red velvet cake. So stand here and enjoy the heck out of it. I guess I could make y'all some ASMR like the young people do, but y'all are busy, so I'll see you here after my commercial break. And for the record, if your flour is arguing with you, you know, quietly, and won't break up the clumps, get out your whisk. I just put my spoon down and started whisking it to break up these lumps. And just about as quick as I did that, it started to get to its level of thickness. I'm gonna cut the heat off and show y'all what it looks like. So this is flour and milk, see? It makes a very creamy little consistency. You might know this as gravy, friends. If you wanna make gravy at Thanksgiving, you're gonna use flour to do that, but you'll use the turkey grease instead and the drippings. But don't worry, we'll be making that when we get closer to Thanksgiving. I got a whole bunch of stuff planned for y'all in the meantime. All right, the timer just went off. So now we're gonna take our toothpick and check the cake. So I keep telling y'all to do this, and I probably never showed y'all. So just, you know, stick it towards the middle, and look, if it comes out clean, your cake is done. If it had come out with batter on it, your cake needs to cook a little bit. Now, the only exception is pound cake, which you know has to have a soft streak, now that sad streak, now that y'all have learned that. So there we go. And off and off and off. And check her out. Look, ain't she pretty? What? That's what all that red dye number 40 was for. So if you want to know what she'll look like iced, give me just a quick second and she'll be back. But remember, we're gonna let it set and cool, and then we'll ice it, and then you'll have the best birthday cake ever. Okay, so now we'll finish up this easy frosting, and see, your stuff has cooled in the fridge, and so I'm fixing to find out if it's even gonna work, because it sure has thickened up, let's just say that. So now we got our hand mixer, and we're gonna need some Dixie crystals, that's right, some powdered sugar, because y'all, they make not just your regular white sugar, they've got the brown sugar and the powdered sugar. And trust me, going into Christmas, we gonna be using a lot of Dixie crystals and a lot of white lily too. 1 cup, I'm talking instead of measuring, 1 cup of powdered sugar after your stuff has cooled. And then we need a cup of butter, right? Because you know Leigh Brown likes butter and sugar, and it's gotta be softened. So mine's been sitting on the countertop since this morning, and if it's not soft when you're fixing to make your frosting, just put it on a plate and stick it in the microwave for about 10 seconds. Do not melt it, because then your consistency will be all messed up, but you can soften it after the fact. And that's, if you're wondering why I'm unwrapping so many, I accidentally bought the stupid butter quarters, and I don't like those things, but I wasn't looking when I was at the store. And so then we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla, and we have what we have here, the organic Madagascar vanilla from the Harris Teeter / the Kroger, since Kroger bought Harris Teeter, but they haven't screwed them up yet, so yay Kroger, we appreciate you for that. And now let's cross our fingers that the congealed stuff will come together without making a giant mess in my kitchen. But look at that powdered sugar starting to go already, y'all. I knew it was gonna happen. Oh, and look, it loosened up right good. All right, so we're gonna mix this up until it's smooth. I'm using a really low speed right now because frankly, I don't want the powdered sugar to go all over the kitchen, and it was fixing to. And then, y'all can see behind me, my cake is over here in the corner cooling off. I will put this on the cake when it is 100% cool. If you put it on early, friends, it's gonna run right off the edges. So when you come back, you're gonna see a finished product. Turn off. Come on, video. Dagnabbit. That thing works. Okay, so we finish it up, you know, by putting the icing on the cake. Now this icing is gonna look a little bit chunky, which is the butter and the sugar. It's not gonna be perfectly smooth like that store-bought stuff with all the preservatives and the GMOs and chemicals and communist in it. And so what you should know is that you shouldn't judge things by their outside appearance, right? Right, because it tastes really good, and it's like, you know, basically butter and sugar and milk, because milk is good for bone density, and that's important for everybody. Now, I don't like to frost it all the way down the sides. I just like it around the top because I prefer the cake over the icing. And so there you go, friends. That is your red velvet cake. Make sure that you share it with somebody because nobody should eat that much cake by themselves. Subscribe for more, and then tell me happy birthday, and I'll see you next time.